the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and today we are projecting the top 12 wide receivers, and we're taking a different approach. I did a video like this last week, but we are going to project the top 12 wide receivers by using our friends over at runthesims.com. It's great that we spend all offseason doing research, digging deep into this data and these stats that we have for you, and we talk about situations and everything like you can think of. But using runthesims.com and their projections tool, it really helps you see the raw data and the numbers, which can help you to understand what does a player have to hit to finish at a certain position. This is a whole different approach to fantasy football research, and absolutely excited to bring this video to you. And again, we're going to be talking about ball catchers today. And speaking of ball catchers, if you're, trimming up, keeping yourself fresh down there, you don't want ball catchers. You want our friends over at manscaped.com. And if you go there and you do a little bit of shopping, when you check out, use code word headliners, all capital letters, and it is going to give you 20% off all of your products and give you free shipping. Who doesn't love a great deal? And you can get that at manscaped.com. Code word headliners, all capital letters, 20% off your entire order and free shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we like to see around here. So it is time. We're going to jump into it using runthesims.com. Screen just got super bright. The projection tool is up. Let's take a look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, as of right now, based on the projections that Run the Sims have in already, these are your top 12 wide receivers for the 2021 season. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. Really no argument there. Then you got Justin Jefferson. Cooper Kupp is interesting. DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Robert Woods also falling into the top 12. Just outside of that, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Lockett, Julio Jones, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and T. Higgins. So let's go back up to the top. The number one thing that stands out to me right now as I look at this is the LA Rams wide receivers. So let's go to the Rams and take a look at them first to determine what would need to happen on this team for them to hit these wide receiver 1 marks that we are seeing on the screen currently. Cooper Kupp coming in at wide receiver 7, that seems a bit high. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 7 and Robert Woods at wide receiver 12, that's a lot. To me, wide receiver 1 on this team is Robert Woods. It's not Cooper Kupp. So let's mess around with these numbers a little bit to see what could happen if we flip-flop some of these stats, because market share goes to Cooper Kupp. Yards barely goes to Robert Woods, with Robert Woods at 12.4 per reception and Cooper Kupp coming in at 12.3. TD market share is going to Cooper Kupp at 24, and catch rate is going to Cooper Kupp at 70%. So what if we just flip it a little bit? What if we just say the market share is going to get switched around? So the market share now for Cooper Kupp becomes 21, and the market share for Robert Woods becomes 22. What happens there? Well, those two basically flip-flop at this point. Robert Woods moves into the wide receiver 1 position on the team, wide receiver 9 overall with 220 fantasy points, and Cooper Kupp comes in with 219, making him the wide receiver 10. So even that small little bump there, we're still giving Cooper Kupp the touchdown market share there for receiving touchdowns, but we're giving Robert Woods this 22% market share for receiving yards. That's going to help out a whole lot. But what if we say keep Cooper Kupp where it is? Why don't we take a little bit away from Van Jefferson and pull him down to 8 and make his target share 8% and let's give another 2% here to Robert Woods, making it 24. That's going to shoot Robert Woods all the way up to the wide receiver 7 with 234 half PPR points. So we're seeing what just a little bit of a change in the numbers can do for these guys in terms of their wide receiver projections and their outcomes. Again, as of right now, and I think these numbers, we're calling for a 34% rush rate and a 35% touchdown rate, and that's still got Darrell Henderson coming in as running back 14. Now, the one thing that we don't have on here yet is an update to the running back position to bring Sony Michel in. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes when that gets updated here in the next day or two. But we're talking about wide receivers right now, so that's what matters. So that's a small change right there. What if we say, again, hey, love Cooper Kupp. We're not going to take much away from him. Let's move his TD percentage down to 22. Just barely, all right? We're not going to take much away from him, and we're going to move Robert Woods to 23.2. Well, now we're looking at Robert Woods hitting wide receiver 6 in half PPR, Cooper Kupp dropping down to wide receiver 11. For Robert Woods, that's 157 targets, 99 receptions, 1,200 receiving yards, and 7.5 touchdowns. That doesn't seem that far off from me. That's not really a projection that you look at and say, oh, there's no way that's happening, right? I don't see it. But again, too, what if we took a little bit more away from Cooper Kupp? And again, this isn't me taking away from Cooper Kupp because I don't like him. I just want you all to see visibly how things can change if somebody were to lose something, if Cooper Kupp were to miss some time. Maybe he's not the target hog that a lot of people expect. What if we bump him down one and we give Tyler Higbee a +1 status? Now you're looking at Cooper Kupp. Just 1% less of the market share there. Just 1% less. And he comes in at wide receiver 14. That is how quickly things can fluctuate right now for the wide receivers on that team. That is how close they are. So again, he would still come in with 131 targets, 92 receptions, 1,141 receiving yards, and 7.3 touchdowns. That is how quickly things could change on that team, and how really, honestly, things can change anywhere for any team. Let's go ahead and reset this. Go back to the projection, so guys are back where they're at right now. I want to talk about Calvin Ridley, because Calvin Ridley is a guy that we look at and say he is one of 5 that could be the wide receiver 1 on the season. Adams, Hill, Diggs, Ridley, and Hopkins are the 5 that I look at and say those are the 5 that could truly be the wide receiver 1 on their team. So let's go back to these inputs. Go to Atlanta. Atlanta right now coming in with just over 1,000 plays on the season, 38% rush rate, 45 total touchdowns, and a 32% rush rate. Well, let's go take a quick gander down here at Calvin Ridley, who's coming in with a 26% market share, 13.5 yards per reception, 28% market share for touchdowns, and a 62% catch rate. So right now, Calvin Ridley is coming in with 173 targets, 107 receptions, 1,455 receiving yards, and 8.8 touchdowns. The one thing that I see here is if we just give him a little bit of a bump and catch percentage? What if we say instead of 62% catch rate, we go to 65% catch rate? 3% more, ladies and gentlemen, and that pushes him up to wide receiver 2. That is how close he is to moving that far up the board. Because now we're looking at 173 targets, 113 receptions, 1,500 receiving yards, and 8.8 touchdowns. This puts them still a pretty decent amount behind Davante Adams in half PPR. Because right now in a half PPR, Davante Adams is getting 294 points to 265. So what would we need to do to push him even closer? Where would we need to get Calvin Ridley to get him even closer to that? Well, when I take a look at this team, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and then Russell Gage and Hayden Hurst are going to be the guys. I still think Mike Davis receives a little bit of touches out of the backfield as well, but those are going to be the main guys. Olamide Zaccheaus, I don't expect him to really be anybody that's going to come in and offer 10% market share reduction. Let's bump this down. Let's make it 8%. And that 2%, I'm going to give to Calvin Ridley. So we're going to make it 28%. 28% market share now. So just a 2-point bump. Go back to the projections. And now we've really closed the gap even more, because now we're at 294 to 281. What if we say that this team scores 50 touchdowns this season? 50 touchdowns. Why am I saying they're going to score 50 touchdowns? Because they have a bad defense. They're going to be a pass-first offense. They have guys that can win all over the field. And they're going to be throwing a lot in a division that is going to be really, really competitive. So I just gave them 50 touchdowns. I'm not changing the rush TD rate. I'm going to leave it the same. So basically, I just added 5 touchdowns to this team, and I'm going to keep the TD market share and everything the same. Now that's going to bring Calvin Ridley up to 9.6 touchdowns, and it's going to bring him within 8 fantasy points of Davante Adams. We're looking at a guy right now with Calvin Ridley that if he is healthy for 17 games, really weird to say that this season, but if he is healthy for 17 games and he approaches numbers that are even close to being similar as Davante Adams, I mean, why can't he? And I just showed you here that it is possible, right? I just showed you that it is possible for Calvin Ridley to finish near Davante Adams. If Davante Adams were to suffer any type of kind of a step back in terms of what this is or who this team is, maybe they run it a little bit more. Randall Cobb being back helps a little bit. Whatever it may be, you've got, I mean, obviously you've got other guys there that can help out too with MVS. With Rodgers. I mean, there's just so many things that can happen with that team, right? Davante Adams should still be the wide receiver 1. Aaron Rodgers going on that discount double suck it tour is going to get him as many passes as he wants to. But Calvin Ridley is going to be really, really close. If anybody wants to argue that Calvin Ridley is going to be the wide receiver 1, I don't necessarily doubt it. I like Calvin Ridley. I think he can finish up there. But this is giving you a really good indication of how close it actually is. Let's reset that. Let's go back here. And again, we're closing in on over 12 minutes now on the video, so I'm not going to go through every single guy because I want to talk in depth about a few players here instead of just quickly doing things with a bunch of them. But what about a couple of guys that are just outside the top 12? What about a guy like Ja'Marr Chase? 136 targets, 84 receptions, 1,186 receiving yards. Let's go to inputs by team. We're going to go to Cincinnati. And let's take a quick scroll down to the wide receiver position. Ja'Marr Chase right now is coming in with a catch rate of 62%. There are some concerns based on the way he's performed so far that maybe he's going to have some drops. I personally don't think that's going to happen, okay? I think he's going to end up being just fine. But I do think he gets off to a slower start because this is a guy that opted out of last season, all right? He's opted out. He didn't play at all last year. He's got some rush that he has to shake off. He's going to be coming back onto the field to the NFL game. It's going to have to he's going to have to slow it down because it's going to be sped back up for him. What if we just manipulate a couple of things here to say, hey, just maybe catches the ball 2% less, and let's say that market share, let's drop that market share down a little bit to 19%. Let's put it in line with the other guys, all right? So everybody now has a 19% market share. Well, we got to put 2% elsewhere. I mean, let's just, for the heck of it, where's Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon's got a 12%. Let's just give him 14% right now, which would make him the running back 7. But we'll talk more about running backs later. So Ja'Marr Chase, a little bit of a reduction in the market share, spread evenly across the board between Chase, Boyd, and Higgins. Catch rate at 60%. That's going to drop him all the way down to wide receiver 23. So again, the difference between Ja'Marr Chase being a borderline wide receiver 1 and being a borderline wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 is not that much. And if you feel that there is any chance that these 3 guys end up staying on the same page as each other and really being even across the board in terms of market share, yards, everything, then there is no way Ja'Marr Chase is going to finish nearly as high as a lot of people feel like he could. This year, no. In the future, yeah, love Ja'Marr Chase. Excellent talent. He's going to be a beast in this league, but it might not happen right away. It's very important for everybody to understand just how close that is. Couple more guys, one more just outside the top 12 that we're going to take a quick look at. The situation in Dallas, Amari Cooper right now showing up with 199 points, wide receiver 17. CeeDee Lamb showing up with 194 fantasy points, wide receiver 19. Let's go take a look at the Dallas Cowboys and see how their market share plays out. When you take a look at the percentages, so they have Dak Prescott showing up as the quarterback 5 based on his projections right now. Come down here to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's only got 1% more in the market share than what CeeDee Lamb does. Barely getting him in the yards per reception, 13 to 12. And the touchdown market share is also right there, borderline 20 to 18. They're giving Michael Gallup a lot of credit here. They're giving him 15% of the market share, 14.9 yards per reception, and a 14 market share for the touchdowns. I don't know if Michael Gallup really ends up hitting that 14% touchdown market share. That's a little bit on the high side for me. But what's even higher is coming down to like Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz. I mean, these guys down here, Blake Jarwin, I don't think he reaches a touchdown percentage of 11 either. I'm going to back that up to 8. Let me go back down here. I'm going to back that up to 8. And then I'm going to scroll up here to the touchdown market share for CeeDee Lamb, and I'm going to give him those touchdowns. Let's give him those touchdowns and make it... Oops, no, I got to go further than that. I got to go to 21. 21.4. So that puts him up at wide receiver 16. So it doesn't give him too much of a boost. It does give him a little bit of a boost. But it does, however, put him now over Amari Cooper. Because now we've got CeeDee Lamb projecting for 7.8 touchdowns. Amari Cooper for 7.3. Receptions, 82 to 80. 1,000 to 1,100. Let's go back and just mess with this a little bit. You know I love Amari Cooper, right? He's my boy. He's hanging up behind me. I love him. But we know he's banged up quite a bit. So I'm going to pull his market share down because what if he's injured? What if he does miss a couple of games? What if we pull this market share down to 18% for Amari Cooper? That's going to push him to wide receiver 24. Well, we got to give 3% to somebody. Let's just give it to CeeDee Lamb. Now CeeDee Lamb, if Amari Cooper misses time, CeeDee Lamb now is a wide receiver 1. 222 fantasy points, wide receiver 10, 140 targets, 95 receptions, 1,202 receiving yards, 7.8 touchdowns. So if Amari Cooper misses any time whatsoever, fully expect CeeDee Lamb to be a guy that is going to be inside the top 12 wide receivers. Can they both be wide receiver 1s? It's possible. But it's one of those things where if it was just those two, that's great, but it's not. And you've got Michael Gallup there, and Michael Gallup is going to steal some of those touchdowns, and he's going to steal some of those big plays. So again, that's really kind of a look into what we've got going on here with the projections. If there's someone specific in the video that I didn't go over and that you're like, hey, Kyle, definitely want you to talk about these guys, I could always do projecting like the wide receiver 2s or something like that as well. So let me know down in the comments, is there someone in particular they're like, hey, I got to know about that person? Like, what if we do with it? Or you know what you can do? You can go to runthesims.com. You can subscribe over there, be able to get these tools, use them on a regular basis, and really take your game to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, that's an awesome video. I absolutely love doing that video right there because it is really a big look into what the numbers can do. And again, we throw all this stuff to you all off season long, right? We tell you this and that with the numbers and the data and situations and anything, right? But actually physically seeing us play with the raw data, changing numbers, moving stuff around, and then seeing where does that give them targets, receptions, yards, all of that. with you seeing that, that helps a lot because that really helps you in your head to picture, oh, this is what this guy's got to get. There's no way. Or, oh, that's how much more he would have to get to hit this level. Yeah, that could happen. Or something along those lines. This helps paint a really, really good picture for you all. But ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the guys that I've mentioned. Any changes that you would make. Anything that you saw here that might be off. And of course, like the video. If you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, you got to subscribe and like. Stick around all offseason long. Just hit 120,000 subscribers, baby. Congrats to you, Headliner Nation, for continuing to support us. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I'll see you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.